In the mid to early 1960s, I've forgotten exactly what year it was, I was down in Portsmouth, Virginia, walking the docks, looking at boats, killing time. And I run up on a little wooden boat. It was plywood, fiberglassed over, for sale. Had a little sticker on there, for sale, with a telephone number on it. So I called the number, and the fellow said, "Yeah, sure, I'll live a couple blocks away. I'll be right down there. I'll show it to you." So I said, "All right." So he come down. We went aboard. Well, I liked the interior. It was really nice. Had two bunks forward. Had two bunks that were under the cockpit seats, one on each side for my two kids, who were very little then. And a little stove, sterno cook stove on one side and a little tabletop on the other. And the forward bunks came back far enough that you could sit there and eat and what have you. But the boat was, it was kind of narrow. And it had 5.5 foot of keel under it. It was only 21 feet long. And the guy's brother had bought the boat in Yokohama, Japan. The boat was built there. It was a Yokohama 21, and it was brand new when he bought it. Because sails and boating equipment was really cheap there, he bought 2 spinnakers, 2 working jibs, 2 Genoas, 2 mainsails, 2 anchor riding sails, and 2 anchors, and a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember now what all of it was, but anyhow, he was in the Navy, and he sailed it all over the Indian Ocean, in the Sea of Japan, all around through there while he was in the Navy, while he was stationed there in Japan, Yokohama. Well, when his tour duty was up, he was a naval officer, and I suspect he must have been the son of a senator or maybe a admiral or something, because he talked the Navy into putting that boat on the deck of one of the Navy's ships and bringing it back to the United States. They came into San Francisco with it. They put it on a truck and hauled it to Portsmouth. And he sailed it around the bay, had a good time with it. And then he moved. Then he became stationed in Germany. So he went over there and spent several years. And the boat was at the marina, and his brother was slapping a coat of paint on it as was needed, all over the bright work and everything else. It was painted white. He had taken care of it the best he could, but he wasn't really much interested in boats. Anyway, he asked $3,500 for it, and we finally argued and dickered around and settled on, I think, $2,250 or something like that. So I had a boat. Georgine, my wife, had never sailed, so she had an experience coming. But my brother and his youngest son, Bobby, and I went down and got the boat. Now, I didn't want to haul the boat there in Portsmouth because I wanted to haul it somewhere where I could get it done, get it hauled out cheaper, and I could do the work myself and paint the bottom. So we took off out of the Portsmouth Marina, sailing out the Elizabeth River, heading for the James River and the Chesapeake Bay. Well, we got to a place there, the tide was coming in, and we got to a place where we couldn't make any headway because the bottom was full of barnacles and the sailing was slow, and we sat there in front of a Japanese ship there, sailing, not making any headway at all. Finally, the tide began to change, and we sailed out, got out of the river. Well, we went on through the harbor tunnel opening, and headed out into the Chesapeake Bay. Well, the wind died, the tide was coming out, and it pushed us out towards the mouth of the bay. But finally, we got a little breeze. The tide eased a little. And we sailed on up the bay to the York River and went into Perrin Creek at Guinea. So that's how we got the boat and got it to where we could work on it. Georgine and I worked on it some. I painted the bottom, and we did everything we needed to do to get her going. Bobby never sailed again. He said, no, sir, he wasn't never going to get on a sailboat again because the darn thing wouldn't go anywhere. And it was a pretty long, slow trip. So I couldn't hardly blame him. But we got the boat sailing, and we had some good times on it. Of course, my wife got seasick every time I went out, just about. And all I can do is mention my praise for her, because being seasick is no easy thing, and she stuck it out, stuck with it. And we sailed on up behind Gwen's Island one weekend, run aground. She thought she was never going to get off the boat. And we sat there till the tide changed, and finally went over to the dock, and we got ashore and walked around a little bit, and she got feeling a little better. Well, coming back, we had a better trip. It wasn't rough. Had a nice breeze out of the west, and wind was blowing off the land, and we were about a half mile offshore, so the waves weren't very big, and she had a really pleasant trip, and I think she enjoyed herself. We sailed on up the York River again, went into Perrin Creek and tied up the boat, came back home to Richmond, and it was a good time. Anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about it here in another few days when I get a chance, and maybe some of the boaters will enjoy this a little bit.